night, and this is a Mars hour. I'm talking about Mercury ingressing into Capricorn and the meaning of all of this because Mercury is spending the second time in Capricorn in these degrees. It was retrograde, now it is direct. And it is symbolic that Mars is on the ascendant. The moon has just ingressed into Pisces, where Saturn is to apply to conjunct Saturn. And so Mercury is small things, creations, words, contracts, children. And Saturn in Capricorn is structure, of institutions, and legally together they are legally binding words and contracts. And Saturn in Pisces is about maritime structures, but also structures associated with drugs or pharmaceuticals and healing professions, but also divination, and to get together with Pluto in Capricorn, we're also still talking about psychology. Okay, when Pluto will ingress into Aquarius at the end of the month, Mercury would still be in Capricorn, and we get a more decentralized or an all-encompassing or a nervous system-based type of psychological control. The world's going to know its energy. Okay, if you have been listening to people talking about psychological control using frequencies, using waves, and thinking about what world are they living in, it is going to be your world with the ingress. Now, there are a lot of great things to do with Pluto in Capricorn and in Aquarius, but I'm talking about right now the ingress. And one of the words that is most associated with Saturn in general, and Saturn in Capricorn, is responsibility. Okay, what is the notion of karma? Our actions are accumulating and they have results. And so the fact that our actions are accumulating and they have results is in itself not responsibility. Okay, we're definitely going to be informed of that when Pluto is going to spend 2 decades in Aquarius, but we already got to talk about if the key word since 2008 of Pluto in Capricorn is gaslighting. And what is gaslighting? It is basically use of words or a gap between realities. Okay, Pluto is sextiling Neptune, so the use of a gap between realities to either make someone question their reality or make the institution clear of legal charge for what they do. Okay, because this is Capricorn is institutions, okay? Or if it is a Saturn figure, a teacher, a guru, and we've had, or a boss is also Saturn. We've had several movements that were exposing the various types of such gap creation without physical violence, without directly telling you anything. And the word responsibility is the most used word because it is a Saturn word. Okay, now in any other reality, the word responsibility simply means I tend to, or I have access to understand the implications of my actions. If I choose a certain course of action, it is very accessible for me to apply and I stick to it, I'm going to see results, okay? It's accessible for me to plant the tree, to turn the soil, and I have the energy, I have the medical capacity to do so. Then it is my responsibility to make sure that this tree that I planted is nourished, okay? This is the origin of Saturn, okay? Let's say you bring a baby to the world, let's say you brought it willingly, consensually. It's in a situation where I have the energy, I have the accessibility to just make sure this baby will eat every day. This is my responsibility, okay? If they don't eat, they will be malnourished, and that creates a series of things. So Saturn is originally about that. I have the responsibility to sleep well every night. Okay, maybe make sure my room is tidy or my bed is tidy, and I can withstand this responsibility. In any other reality, there's nothing wrong with the word responsibility. Okay, you need the responsibility to be something that the person can actually do and is actually accessible to them to do. They have the energy and the capacity to do, and also with relative ease. Because Saturn is about rest as much as it is about action. Okay, you can climb a mountain if you are aware of the conditions that are going to be there. And you know what they say in the Nordic countries like Finland or Norwegian or Sweden, they say, or even Germany, there is no bad weather, there is bad clothing. And this is responsibility. This is Saturn in its original meaning. Yes, it's wintry and cold outside, but if we have the correct clothing for the weather, we can go outside, we can be exposed to nature, we can absolutely strengthen our immune system, play in the snow. None of that is dangerous if we have the right clothing. Okay? There is no bad weather, there is bad clothing is a very Saturn word and in its original responsibility. The reason I'm having this very long disclaimer is because I don't want you to think that I eliminate Saturn or eliminate the original notion of responsibility or karma. That is not that difficult. Okay, if you have the right clothing and you wear the right clothing, you're not freezing in the cold, and you can play outside, or you can climb a mountain, or you can do great, you can achieve great things. This is Saturn. This is what Saturn is coming to teach you. Okay, it's not coming to spank you, unless you have such king. It's not coming to destroy you. It's not coming to exhaust you beyond belief. No, it is coming to put the word dedication in your life. Okay, climbing the mountain takes dedication. Yes, it's slow and steady. It is about being prepared and predicting things in the reality that's in. And Saturn is about finding a path where you can enjoy life within the conditions that are existing. Okay, this is Saturn. Yes. Of course, previously when we didn't have outer planet, Saturn was the gulag, okay, or exile, or okay, those things existed. I'm not annihilating that reality either. I'm just giving you a context that is contrasting to what I'm about to say about Pluto in Saturn sign. Pluto in Saturn sign means that the clothing that you have is not enough to cool you, and you don't have access to warm clothing, or that the clothing that you have is not enough to cool you, even though it looks like it is. And the clothing that your guru wears is not the same clothing that you are given, even though you're told that it is and it looks the same. Okay? They ordered your uniform from a fast fashion shop, and you are a soldier in the army, but the commander that is not going to the war is telling you that there is not bad weather, there is bad clothing. This is Pluto in Saturn sign. This is Pluto in Saturn sign. It's not for nothing that I used Mars as an example, okay? Martian, the army. You don't actually have what you need to sustain, and you're being told the same mantra that was true back in the days. I want you to think about another gaslighting to do with Saturn. And I want you to think about the sin of gluttony. Okay? So the original sin, one of the 7 sins of gluttony, is basically if you're having a family dinner and one of you is eating the food for the entire family, it is gluttony. Okay? So eat from your own plate. Okay? And now I want you to think, Saturn rules agriculture, and I want you to think about the fruits and vegetables. Before Manhattan Project, or maybe even a couple of decades ago, when you would eat a cup, 2, 3 apples, you would get the nourishment and vitamins you need for that meal. If it was like not, main course or something like this, okay? All the vitamins you needed for that meal, you would get that. Today, maybe you have to eat 2 kilos. Why? Because the water is polluted and the soil as a result is polluted, and you can grow fruits and they can even be big, but even if you nourish them, just like if you take your own vitamins, the absorption of the vitamins is not the same, and so both your absorption is not the same, and even if you just eat fruits and veggies, okay, or if you are not vegan, you would add grass-fed cows, okay. The cow dung in Uganda is sweet smelling. You don't eat it, but you definitely do eat remnants of it because you use it on the plate that you cook with to sort of like prepare the plate, and you can cut fruits on it or you can cook on it. And the cow dung is basically antiseptic. It doesn't have flies coming to it, doesn't have worms in it. Whereas the cow dung of a farm, organic farm in Netherlands, is not the same. You still have worms in it. We don't know why. And so Akich Joy had a couple of cow dung related videos, and people were like, how come you use that? How come is that? How come this? How come that? Because the cow dung in a village in Uganda is not the same cow dung as in an organic farm in the Netherlands. Okay, Saturn in Pisces, both Saturn in Pisces, which blends realities, but Pluto in Saturn sign is telling you that you can use cow dung in Netherlands for these on your plate to as antiseptic, okay, or that you can use cow dung in the United States as antiseptic, okay. You are likely to have results that are not the same as if you use this in Uganda. Pluto Saturn is about this very same person that went to Uganda and ate there. I'm not talking about original, like I'm not talking about native Uganda person. I'm talking about, let's say, an American person goes to Uganda and they goes to to a farm in Netherlands, and they just trick you to think that it is the same. They know it is not the same, but they say to you, what is your problem with putting your hands in this cow dung, barehanded? You see, in Uganda, they do this all the time. It is antiseptic. They don't get sick from that. And it's not a Uganda person telling you that because they could genuinely not know, but a Dutch person telling that to you. This is Pluto in Saturn sign, okay? Think about the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, okay? Telling you to take debt to buy housing and let the tenants pay for it, okay? And you say, I do this, this is how I got rich. But they transfer the money through a trust, and they don't tell you that. They omit this. Also, they don't tell you which secret society they are a member of. What other details, hidden details they have that cover their own asses, while you are going to be evacuated with your family and children into the street and get sleeping tickets if you try to sleep anywhere. And then you would be put with your children and your spouse in concentration camps that are death camps in 2024 today in the United States. All the while, you're being told that money makes money and it's by debt that you gain money, and you got yourself covered and the tenants will pay. Okay, now if you are, let's say, in your 50s, then you might think, okay, students still need housing outside of home. People want to move out to a neighborhood. I used to rent before we built our house. You don't know what the economy is like today, okay? And it sounds very reasonable, okay? It doesn't sound unreasonable, and you're not an unreasonable landlord. And then you see something happen to your estates. They are being left in horrid situations. So you think, what happened to the tenants? Maybe I need to check the tenants more. And lo and behold, there are companies that suggest just this service to you. Okay, so you understand this is not the tenant. I hope you understand by now, and Pluto is on 29 degrees Capricorn. This is the last chance you're going to get in almost 248 years, except for September, to get this. It's not the tenant. It's not what happened with the younger generation. It's that there is a criminal organization getting a hold of the real estate, and you have to pay protection multiple times, not only for a property tax, even though you are yourself sometimes are even renting, hoping that you will buy a house, but also for the company that manages your estate. And once, okay, in a couple of decades ago, that might not have been a problem because they take care of everything. You pay them well. Where's the problem? They earn, you earn. You don't have to take care of it all. It's lovely. But and the company that checks the tenants, okay, and you think, okay, at least I have this headache off me. It's enough to have one tenant in 7 estates that is doing problems. I have to renovate the entire place. No, you don't. No, you don't. No. You know, a tenant that is renting your apartment for the right reasons, and can afford this and is living in a good economy and is not being mistreated at work, they will just rent your house until their house is building, and they will treat your house well because this is the model for their housing. Okay, they will make your soil more fertile if you have a yard. They will fix and correct things even in themselves sometimes if they have the money around the house, because they want to check and try things, and those things they will implement on their house. Okay, so your house is just a model until they get their own housing. And this is why people rent places, okay? They want to make sure, how do I like living in a cottage? How do I like living in a private house? How do I like living in a penthouse? How do I like living that? So I rent the place and I pay well until I understand, okay, for the rest of my life, those are the things that I would want in an apartment. Those are good reasons to rent an apartment and not buy a property. Okay, wanting to experiment before you commit and build an estate, wanting to get to know the location. Okay? If your tenant is renting because they don't have money to buy a house and they're never going to have money to buy a house, and you yourself took a loan to buy this house, now they're in a situation. Okay, and so now you pay money for this company that checks the tenant. This company doesn't change the economy; it just checks the tenant. Where are the people who rented your apartment for the right reasons in this economy? Okay, and then you pay for the renovation of the apartment. Okay, and so you understand, like, oh, the damage that I'm going to have to renovate, oh, I'm going to have to sell, which is where they're going to get you to, because you're going to have to sell. And this is how I know people that had estates in the United States. Okay, colleagues, they had estates. They're older than me, the Pluto Leo generation. So they had maybe 12 estates, and they had a company that runs it, and there was no problem. And then the owners of this company changed, and they started flipping houses. This person had to sell all of his 12 estates while they are in their 70s and have children. Okay, and even young children, because they were waiting with bringing children. So they had to sell all of their estates, and at their 70s begin to, or 60s begin to try and think how they will bring income. Okay, they have a lot of talents, but now they are married with children and have their own house, maybe mortgage, maybe not. But you understand how in the past it was different than now, and Pluto came into Capricorn and changed things, okay, changed structures. And so the same Saturn guidance of maybe your parents. I saw a short of a YouTube video that says, I charge my kid so and so $400, I think, like, or $200 for rent each month, and I put it in a saving account. So by the time that they get to their, if they finish the degree or whatnot, they are having their first deposit for a housing. And it sounds like such a beautiful story about teaching a child responsibility. So they dedicate the money to this, then the same money will be their property tax or will be their mortgage. They're learning the habit of saving. It is something so beautiful, okay? Except that the real estate market is such that your child will not be able to buy a house without their being bullied into selling it. Okay, where I am just renting, and I had multiple people asking me, "Are you live there? Are you live in rent?" And I said freely, "I live in so and so's apartments," which is a makler, a real estate agent. Okay, like, I'm not your enemy. I'm not enemy. I live in so and so, but I defend this house like nothing, because not like nothing, like, like nothing can stop me, because I understand that there are people that want these estates, okay, and your child is going to have to contend with people trying to get protection from them, or people trying to get a hold of this estate, and they can try to bring a neighbor that is not good. They can try to do many things that will interfere, so that your child would need to sell the property. And then where will they buy a property? It's the same. It's real estate corruption, okay? And also, we talk about stock corruption. Yes, what your stocks are invested in is basically this world war that we are having. And all of our, even if you get welfare, I get welfare, but every time that money is transferred to me, first of all, I pay taxes for health taxes, and we pay something like VAT. So for every time any money, okay, somebody deposits money in my bank, and it's postal bank. I don't even use banking since 2008. There is a small, maybe shekel, maybe, something like less than $1 that they pay as taxation. But when you count all the people that are getting this money, you get to a couple of millions that now you can invest in places that I alone could not invest. I could not say, well, give me my money and without the taxes, and I will just be responsible and I will invest this taxation myself. I don't have the venues of opportunity open to me, and the companies that are of investment companies that do invest the money of real estate companies, public and private sector, they don't share what they do. They are not transparent. You don't even know that they exist. Okay, most of us, we don't really think about this, because for us to be responsible for our money, it's like, oh well, do I have money for this Starbucks coffee? And the most I can think of, oh well, the Starbucks supposedly, should I ban Starbucks? And this is the most that we can think about, without, for example, thinking about Starbucks as a bank and they reinvest your money, without, for example, thinking about what estates do Starbucks branches sit on, without thinking about what company insures the employees. Okay, to let's say you want, not that it's in my interest. Okay, I live in Israel, but let's say you wanted to um, vote with your wallet, then it would be embargo on the bully coalies that are used to ensure Starbucks personnel rather than Starbucks. Like, you can buy your coffee, but if you tend to the bully coalies and you don't invest in these bully coalies, or you try to protest that they won't be able to use these bowly coalies and so on and so forth in that way, you don't even think about this. And bowly coalies are the stocks that last the longest in a crisis, because this is the insurance of all the banks, the bank employees. But as an employee in the bank, if you get into a bank in Israel, you have to have a bank account in the bank that you're working for, or you won't get the money. You just like welcome financial violence. You have to consent to financial violence legally. And this is where we get to the hardcore topic of this episode, because now we're talking not just Pluto, talking Mercury ingressing into Capricorn. Mercury is a contract, Mercury is a word. Mercury is your consent, supposedly, your legally binding consent. And it doesn't mean your willing consent. It means a consent that legally binds you to not sue in the case of. Okay? And this is why they tell you don't sign anything without reading it, don't sign it without taking to a lawyer. Most people today don't have the money for a consultation with a lawyer that would actually tell them the truth and is not a member of the same, did not get the grant to study his law studies from the same fund that is signing you this document, and there's a conflict of interest that you won't even know about. And even if you will, then they can't represent you. Okay, who can? Well, all of the lawyers needed grants. And all of these grant companies are associated with each other. So this contract that you are signing is basically fabricated so that they can get your legal consent to so and so and so and so and so and so and so. And you won't be left with anywhere to live, because if you try to sleep in the street even and you say, F that, I'm creating a new reality, you get a sleeping ticket. Now you got yourself a fine. That is going to make it more difficult for you to get a job, to rent a house, and so on and so forth. So these small words are called a responsibility. Okay? It is not the responsibility to wear the clothing that will protect you from the storm when that clothing is accessible for you, available for you. You have the money to buy. When you buy this clothing, this is actually the clothing that's going to protect you. This is not the case. And it is that type of binding responsibilities that is going to be increasingly used. Saturn in Pisces, the ruler of this Pluto, And this Mercury is to do with medicine, faraway travel, exile, drugs and pharmaceuticals, and so on and so forth, and structures to do with that. So remember the times where you could not go to work if you weren't vaccinated, but also you would not be fired and given compensation. Okay? We're talking about the return of these times. Okay, so you're not able to go to work, you are, unless you are vaccinated, but we don't force you to vaccinate. Okay? You understand that any ethical medical use does not necessitate doing these things. Okay? If you don't take these drugs, you have no housing, but you also cannot work because the working conditions. In the past, you used to do it with working conditions. This is how I got to be on welfare. You think, what is this person that has a video every day? Um, yes, they cannot, they have problems with their feet, do it by feet, do it by this, do it by that. Yeah, to speak only for an hour, it's very likely that their throat is sore, and if they tried more than that, absolutely. But look, they do astrology very well. Why is this person on welfare? What happens when they try to have money changing hands? That makes it impossible for them to get out of the situation. Okay, and if you have a business in astrology, then you know what happens. Okay, you have fake accounts blocking you, you have the algorithm, you have problems with your colleagues. Why would you have problems with your colleagues? Everybody's making money. The more astrologers that are out there, the more fertile the market is. Everybody wants to have like a birthday consultation, choose, maybe I want to live here, I want to live there. It is nice. Yes, it costs some money, but if it was accessible, and why would there be any problem with that? Okay. So if you cannot work like in physical work, and you cannot speak the whole day, because I won't be able to speak with clients the whole day, maybe you can do some course or some YouTube channel and people can pay for that, so that within your means you can participate in the economy. Okay, why is it so inaccessible? Why is it so inaccessible? Okay, and so when people didn't get that because they thought you're a parasite, you're lazy, you're, I don't know, whatever were they thinking, you're making yourself, you don't want, do you think people don't want to have financial freedom and make a living and do something that they're good at and competent at and make a good living, and for that to be accessible for them in a way that they are not hurting their health and well-being while doing so? Okay, do you think that people don't want that? Would I not want to travel every once in a while, someplace, not when I'm homeless and escaping violence, but just to travel? Would I not want to be participant of consumerism, maybe buy a car, have a driving license, maybe try that, maybe invest in some companies that have patents that are new, or the lighting one or something? Okay, do you think I wouldn't want that? Or buy more trees and plant forests. Okay, so society was buying a certain narrative that was told to them from the times where if somebody really didn't work in anything or didn't participate in anything, it was all that weird that they couldn't explain it, because everybody was a part of the society and were accepted and validated and so on and so forth. Um, and so you're buying the fact that, hey, if I work this hard and this person doesn't, well, you work this hard, you're going to pay all of your 401k to a person like me eventually, because not because I live on welfare, because my profession is holistic health practitioner and astrologer, and you're going to need to understand why things not working for you. And come Saturn, come Uranus, come Pluto. Now I'm going to my Pluto square. You're going to be basically finding that you have to pay so much money, because I would only take the realistic charge, because if I don't take the realistic charge, I will still need to be dependent on welfare. And I need to have a house to feed my cats. You don't want to see me without my cats. Um, to grow my yard, to build a house, to pay property taxes, to pay to the people, okay, to have employees that are building the house, that are doing a good job, and they are well fed, and they have each an apartment of their own that they sleep with, not like many people sleep on the floor together. And this is the house that we are living in later, okay? So of course I will be charging. And so you say, I work this hard, I work this hard. Why can't they do something with themselves? We do something with ourselves. We're changing the economy so that you wouldn't have to work this hard. And eventually you're working this hard, but a part of the accumulation of the action is that you are developing ailments, just the way I did. Okay, I'm not different to you. The only difference between me and you is experience, because I was doing the same things that you are doing while telling everybody not to do this, by the way. And I was doing the same things that you were doing. And then I couldn't stand on my feet. And then I had allergies. And then the cures for like something with the skin. Some colleague took something. He was a model who took something with the skin. He said, come on, let's treat this, treat that. I took this Roacotin thingy. I couldn't hold. I was working in McDonald's. I was trying to hold a bowl of chips. I couldn't lift it up. And he said, this is normal. Okay, so I cannot blame the doctors. And of course, he was taking this medicine himself. And then I realized it's no good. It was in my late teenage, so I don't know how it affected my nervous system, my neurodivergence. And so I will never know. I will never know. Okay, and he was taking this because he was also a model. Somebody got me convinced to try this Roacotan thingy for the face. Then I had allergies. Then I tried to be a vegetarian, but I was still drinking milk, so my iron was not good, and so on and so forth. And then I said, well, I will sit. I have to do work while sitting. And I had a throat sore. I was working for a credit card company. Okay, my throat was sore. I'm getting angry because they were wanting me to fool people. And I said, I don't want to fool people. Put me somewhere else. I don't have to fool people. I don't have to lie to them. And so on and so forth. Okay, so I was trying to do the same thing that you are doing. It's just that the karma accumulated faster for me, and I got to a situation where I was thinking of how to unalive myself, because I cannot get a job even though I'm fairly talented. Yes, I can get a job, I cannot keep a job even though I'm fairly talented. And there were all these ailments coming in. Eventually it developed to mental ailment. And that's how I got my degree, because because I had no money to study with all these jobs that I was doing. And some of them were an insurance company and a credit card company. It should have been enough for me to fund my studies, right? Apparently not. And this is Israel. It's not anywhere near the tuition of United States or UK. Okay? Not anywhere near. Not anywhere near. It's expensive, but it's not anywhere near those tuitions. Okay? And we are allowed to work during studies. And even still, it would not be enough. Okay? It's that bad. It's that bad. And so what is going to happen with this Mercury is that the word responsibility again, is going to be used in various contexts. And another word with Pluto Saturn is the misuse or gaslighting or misuse of projection. It's also something I see right today. Projection, let's say, oh, yes, projection. So let's say you say something, okay? And I tell you, you know, this word you used is being used as gaslighting. I know that you probably don't mean it in this way, okay? But just make sure, because I think it maybe you would need to revise the message so um, that 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 you are well received, okay? And you're telling me you are projecting, okay? I don't know who taught you what projection is, but this is not projection. Projection is if you say, if I, instead of saying to you, I see this word that you used is usually used in other contexts to gaslight people, for example, responsibility, and I tell you, perhaps you want to revise the message. Um, this is not projection. If instead of saying that, I was saying, you're a gaslighter, you're just trying to get people to get hurt and get without responsibility, this is projection. But when I tell you you are using a word that is used in so and so context, and I know you probably don't mean it. The only way it is projection is if you intended to gaslighting, and now you're just telling me, no, my darling, I intended to gaslighting. What are you telling me to revise this word? Okay, Mercury. In his shade period in Saturn sign, co-present with Pluto, co-present with Mars, co-present with the Sun, where we stand our ground to the misuse of words in order to gaslight us and get our legally binding, supposedly consent, because it's not consent, um, to procedures, to long-term binding contracts, and so on and so forth. Okay? And this is where people already know to not do this, to not sign anything, to not this, to not that. People already know that. They don't sign anything without my lawyer looking at it. 2024, you cannot afford a meeting with a lawyer. And if you can, they advise you to use these tricks. Okay? So the thing is that you see a large B in the sky, something to do B. Okay, so I don't know what's about like a Bitcoin or yeah, digital coins. Okay, maybe there's going to be binding with digital coins as well. Okay, stuff like that, like Bitcoin stuff. This is a possibility. Digital coins, social credit score, all that stuff. Okay, this is a time where people that absolutely don't have your consent are going to do everything so that you will sign a word, sign a document, and then they can say, I have this consent of a person. Okay? When somebody tried, when the Scalubina girl, it was Friday 24th, not the 23rd was when I was flying. Yes, the 24th was a Friday. It was 2021, December. And this Galubina girl that was working for the bank in Amsterdam, she was trying to recruit me to like a human trafficking apartment, very likely. And one of the things that she was saying is like there are cameras and you cannot strictly like work out on the weekends. And she said she used the word because I want you to know where you are getting into. And these are legally binding stuff. Okay, she wants to say this so that I will supposedly get into a human trafficking apartment. And of course, I don't know where am I getting into, but she wants me to in having no option and being in the street. And well, the police would tell, oh, this shelter is a 40 minutes walk when it is a 40 minutes drive, okay, an hour drive, or 14 minutes walk when it's 14 minutes drive, okay. And so she is informed of this. So this is a way to put you in a situation where you're supposedly informed. It can be something to do with your lungs. It can be something to do with a checkup, a medical checkup that you're supposed to take, or a medical procedure that you're supposed to take, okay? Or fly, okay? Think about wings, flying. Before you fly, you need to know this, you need to know that. And it's getting you to supposedly be informed of something that you're not at all informed. And then what you say yes to is not what the actual contract is. Okay, Pluto is sextiling Neptune here. Saturn is co-present with Neptune. So trying to delude you into signing certain contracts. And they can to do with Bitcoin, with digital coins, with the medical procedures, liquidity, liquid assets, all those things. Forgery of identities can be involved, because Mercury is hands and fingers, and we're talking about a fingerprint. Okay, so you gave your fingerprint to the to have a passport, and you are forced to do this, by the way. But they tell you, no, you are consenting, although you will not have a passport if you will not consent, okay? And so this is where the play on choice is going to be radically imposing things on you, saying that you have a choice, you could do something else, where those something else's are going to be quite limited, so that you will consent supposedly to a legally binding situation, will not be able to be complaining about working for organized crime. One of the things I saw was a very weird video by a person called Thessaluki, and he was broadcasting from Palestine, and then he moved out of Israel, broadcasting from many places. And suddenly you see a very strange video. After we paid $6,000 to get him out of forced hospitalization, you see a very strange video where he is performing sexual acts with some woman. And there was just something very weird. And later he said, oh, I'm not, began to talk like something that we never heard him talking in this way. So I don't know if he's been extorted into participating in human trafficking, or what is going on there. And he had to get a weapon from illegally. And so I don't know what is going on there. I know that before that we had a person that would go everywhere and film everything. And after that, we have a person that is talking in a very strange way, and is obviously not crazy, okay? It's not like he went out of his mind. There's some sort of extortion going on there that we don't know about. It's not like he changed his skin and suddenly became a human trafficker, or having sex with women that obviously could not consent, or anything like this. And I was seeing this, and I'm like, this happens to people now. It's like either you are a human trafficker or a part of crime organization, or you are hospitalized forcibly. And he's not at all in Israel, he's in Italy. Or you are a victim of crime, or you have to tell the world that you bought the weapon illegally. Okay, there's something going on, and wherever you would try to turn, there is corruption. Okay, so I have no idea what is going on in those situations, because somebody trying to get him locked up. They tried to get him locked up to hospital. It didn't work. Now they tried to get him locked up in another way, or maybe threatening his life. Okay, because we didn't see videos of this young person participating in human trafficking, or sleeping with women who cannot consent, or we didn't see him doing those things. And so it's very weird what is going on. And prior to that, he was exposing all kinds of the real life in places that we are not seeing before, not only Palestine, but also every neighborhoods that are dangerous to walk in, and kind of like exposing more like a journalist what is going on, what is the life there. So it seems very uncharacteristic that suddenly this person is doing, hiring sex workers that are exploited because they are homeless, and then blaming it on them. Okay, it looks like somebody's trying to get this person locked up. And I think those type of stuff, okay, also happening to people. If you think about this Galubina in Amsterdam, she's very likely not the person who ran the whatever human trafficking or sex trafficking housing they have there in Amsterdam. She's very likely the frontier person that would either be herself trafficked, or be forced to recruit, and so on and so forth. So again, we don't know the background of these things, but something incredibly corrupt is about to be exposed in the world in general. Yes, and so a lot of people are kind of like being used in this sense, through this corruption. And so there are places where you say something, you speak about, there is some footage of something, and it is exposing something that you don't even know of. And those are situations that are happening to people right now. Yes, the ascendant is applying from Mars to the Sun, so performers having to be forced to say legally binding words, or filmed on camera in certain ways, is also a possibility. And then I have no idea what is going on there. I remember that one of the things when they don't know what's energy kind of used a psychic attack. He was very concerned with the Facebook group I was running that was giving red flags for like narcissistic abuse. And he was insistent that I will change this title, and I began to feel like weird things, like threatening my life or my physical existence, so that I would change the title of this Facebook group. Is very likely that such actions, or neutralizing people who try to explain, those things will be exposed anyways. But the attempt to neutralize people in these ways, and portray them in certain ways to neutralize them, can be in action. And so the word responsibility is going to be thrown to the air a lot, and it will not have any meaning. It's not, there is no bad whether there are bad clothing. It's a situation where You really don't have the access, whether it's to disobey legal order and so on. And a lot of players are going to be put in such binding situations so as to neutralize them from filming, from journalism, from um, exposing things, and again, sometimes the person might not even know what is going on. Another thing, if Pluto was psychological violence and kind of like hypnotic commands that people use with their communication and stuff like that, Pluto Aquarius already, we're talking about waves, about frequencies, about the nervous systems, interfering with those. The whole world is going to know what's energy in 2 decades, but the things that are being done are already done right now. I want to tell you something I didn't speak about, or maybe I did. After the 7th of October, a lot of Israeli people, I'm sure also in Gaza, had such things. A lot of people from certain villages during the day that had no experience with like psychic attack or any previous such experience. Okay? People that have nothing, that maybe wouldn't even know what's energy before that. Okay, not astrologers, not nada. Just people, everyday people, were suddenly beginning to hear like comments coming from Gaza that tell them to evacuate, or that it's like suddenly beginning to hear orders, comments, comments. Yes, maybe. Um, and so we're not talking about people that have experiences of non-volitional, non-dual experiences. We're talking about something completely out of the ordinary. Um, on the contrary, people who are seasoned with dealing with psychic attacks, they knew what to do. Okay, they do return to sender. They do all these things. And by the way, if you do return to sender, please say, no, do not involve children and innocent people. Do not involve innocent people in the return to sender. The return to sender do not involve children and innocent people in this. Okay, if a child is being forced to do illegal activity or stuff like that, okay, halt it by any means, but do not involve, you know what I mean. So return to sender, this is very important, because return to sender is very useful and very important. Um, and orders to do with return to sender, okay, no weapon formed against me shall prosper, and such sayings. And you might even feel that like something is trying to interfere with your ability to vocalize that, okay? You said it in intention. And you take your presence back. This is not responsibility, it's a point of interference that may be more or less accessible to people. Those are correct things to do with that. And this is important, okay? Because nervous system, the play on nervous system, waves and frequencies, this is already Pluto in Aquarius. But all the hidden ways to try to force people and then say, well, you did this, okay, like we saw with the Desaluki, is very unusual, and I don't think he's in a manic episode or being mad or this or that. But I also don't think that there's something natural. The person was forcibly hospitalized because he knew someone who survived something, and then paid $6,000 to a lawyer to get him out of there, and then he got out to another place, and then he had to buy a legal weapon, and then he's kind of like talking about this, and suddenly he wants to talk with all kinds of people who got canceled. Okay, so maybe there is some extortion going there. He never did anything related to these things. He never talked about this. And so the proximity, okay, of Mercury in Sag, um, and now kind of thinking about it as Mercury entered Saturn sign, is a journalist, okay? This is a journalist, and Mercury is about journalism. So, yes, we don't know. Yes, maybe there are things we don't know, and we just didn't know about the person. But the person whose life is so busy with traveling here and traveling there, and suddenly doing kind of things on camera, I don't think he lost his mind or anything like that. It's very likely to be some extortion happening there that is supposed to ruin his career and lock him up. Not about getting cancelled, but genuinely locking him up. We are very much in the situation where the attempts to put you in a surveilled kind of place against your wish. So it's either a natural disaster, and when that doesn't work, war, and when that doesn't work, homelessness, and when that doesn't work, you crazy, and when that doesn't work, trying to get you messed up in, with legal authorities. And this is going to be turning to everyday people. Okay? And so the word responsibility today is no longer, it's no longer just wearing the coat and gloves when you go out to the snow so that you can play in the snow and build a snowman and come back home and drink your tea and nothing bad happens and your immune system gets stronger, okay? This is not that type of karma. This is not that type of responsibility. And I want you to, I'm giving those examples, okay, not to shame the Saluki, but actually to inform you, to show this as example that somebody's being extorted, that what is done to people in a way that they cannot even ask help, or they would be isolated from their family, because naturally the family sees you on camera like this. It's like if you're not agreeing to go back to hospital, then you will go to jail. And this is how accountability is being used. Okay, somebody suddenly saying, "Oh, my friends are gangsters." They never said anything like this. They never portrayed themselves as a gangster. It's very uncharacteristic, and it is not about the person going mad. There is something going on, and you need to understand that those are things that are being done in the beginning to selected people, and then worldwide. Okay, if you think about what was being done in certain closed hospital environments or certain frontiers, unfortunately, instead of the good things, that there is great medicine out there. It's just that it's not out there because the budget stopped and we cannot get the researchers to speak. Okay, and if they tried, they would probably go through what the Saluki went through. So hospital or jail. Okay, and when I was exposing like the Me Too stuff, like in academia, I was literally hearing that hospital or jail. Okay, that's literally what I was told: hospital or jail. What do you want when you are exposing corruption? Okay, so I want you to know that this is what's going on. And you're going to see it with YouTubers, you're going to see it with public figures, but you're also going to see it with everyday people that suddenly are being isolated. You think, oh, maybe they need hospitalization, maybe something is wrong with them. And then they manage to get over that. And so, oh, what's happening with them? Why are they doing these crazy things? Are they really indeed crazy? Or should they take responsibility for what they're doing when in fact they're being extorted? This is something that this is the way that the organized crime operates, and it touches the resources of people. It touches, this is how your 401k compounds. This is also how my welfare compounds. But if I'm dealing with people that make everyday job about lying and being predatory, then of course I say I don't want to do that. And then I'm put in a position where I have to be dependent on welfare, and people don't understand these situations, and they don't change the labor market. But if they try, they would be facing protection, they would be facing all kinds of legally binding ways to and to trap them into situations so that they cannot make a living and be business. Okay, I open up a business because I don't want to be harassed at work, and I say I will be the business owner, and stuff happened kind of like around that too. You get that for some people it's going to be work, for some people housing, for some people family or relationships. Or when you go to therapy, unfortunately, a lot of parents are separated from their children. And those are stuff that used to happen to once in a person. Now it is used to put people in surveilled spaces. Okay? We talk about the 15-minute city, and so on and so forth. Now, who is more at risk? People with anything coming to the 12th. I am having Pluto coming to my 12th at the end of this month, while the Pluto square. Yes, anything in your 12th house. Let's say Capricorn is your 12th house, you're being put more. Sagittarius is your 12th house, then Venus and Mercury are going to be more the problem. Anything that is at your 12th, or you have 12th, or you have someone bringing things to your 12th, this is where you are in such risk. Also, when it comes to housing, it's the 4th house and 4th house ruler. I talked about this. So when we talk about natural disasters and unnatural disasters, wars and stuff like that, 4th house, 12th house are particularly susceptible to this. And this is something that you want to be informed of. Okay, one thing that homeless people said, well, there is no app for homeless people. You cannot Google what can you do, and so on and so forth. There are some YouTubers that do talk about this. And in Netherlands now, there is an app, but there are atrocities that are happening, and you don't have access to lawyers when they happen. But on a societal level, it's very likely that the society is just going to feel these threats to try to get them to do a medical procedure or a drug prescribed to them, maybe by force, and so on and so forth, for like a virus, or because Neptune rules viruses, or something of this sort. And forgery of identities. There are a lot of refugees to get an address at the gemeente, at the municipality. They need to give an address and to fabricate a document or like a contract. And so if they don't want to be in the street and they have some chance to get help or money, then they will be forced to do so, okay? Because this is, and you will see a lot of addresses if you live somewhere and you suddenly receive a letter from someone, for someone that is not you, and you've been living there for a long time, okay? That can also be if Pisces is your 4th or your 3rd, because the 3rd can be like your mailbox, or if Capricorn is. So those type of things, you will be seeing more and more of that. Okay, people suddenly behaving in a way that is unusual. Okay, they're being extorted in some way. Or people trying to approach you, if it's like your 7th, your 5th house, people trying to approach you like with a lover boy approach or stuff like that. You know that they are not trying to hit on you. It's something else that's going on, and the person doing that is very likely extorted in some way. Um, and so this is the spirit of the times right now, and we are heading towards a soul day as we speak, and heading towards a soul hour as we speak. And the ascendant is, yes, right across the sun, sun. So I'm going to call on Apollo. And I want to thank Lada and Rumen for the show on Apollo. So Rumen uh, has been bringing the knowledge of more traditional astrology and how to do talismans. And he created a very expensive, very beautiful jewelry with original coins and copies of coins from, I think, Greek era, Hellenistic era. One of them was with Apollo. And he said something about Apollo that I had no idea. I knew Apollo is associated, is the sun god, and is associated with creation, creativity, but also relationships that are, flamboyant, so to speak. And so I was cautious working with Apollo because of this relationship facet. But then Apollo is basically about also punishing tyrants, and he hates tyranny. So Apollo used to send his arrows to people who are tyrannical and any sort of tyranny. And so with the sun rising, I'm going to culminate this episode and the ascendant on the sun in Capricorn to bring in the arrows of Apollo to those who are being tyrannical. And I don't mean like the common person. I mean those who are being tyrannical, those who are causing all of these situations for the people, whether it's for people who expose corruption, whether it's those who are leading those places are trying to get you legally binding consent when you're not consenting, you do not, and try to force in this way. So I'm going to call in Apollo and to call in the rage of Apollo to send these arrows and to protect us from any such tyrannical, from any form of tyranny. And I'm going to call in the light swastika as well, and the symbols, and thanks to Rumen, the dolphins, the lion, the eagle, okay, the upright use of the eagle, not the Nazi use of the swastika, not the Nazi use of the eagle. And I want you to watch this episode by Lada and Rumen. You will see the correct direction for the swastika, and it's a symbol you can work in with. It's basically calling on all four winds for in this case for justice, for righteousness, but not just superficial righteousness, but for true intelligence and true support of inspiration and leadership of the sun, health as well. Okay, sun is also about our health, our heart chakra, and clarity of the eyes. So the wisdom of the dolphins, the wisdom of the lions, the wisdom of the eagles, and the swastika, and Apollo, and sun. Of course, the sun itself, to shine brightly and to bring the arrows of Apollo to protect us from tyranny and reverse any attempts to of anybody to try to be tyrannical towards us in spirit and in matter, in energy and frequency, in psychic attacks, or in concrete action. Any action, and no weapon formed against me shall prosper. You can say, no weapon formed against me shall prosper, and bring in this Apollo energy, and invoking Apollo to send his arrows at those who are the genuine, the origin tyrannical people or tyrannical forces or beings, and to reverse their arrows back to sender so that no innocent people are hurt, and we are free, okay, and we are free to and have access to clear water, to fertile soil, to the behaviors that preserve our well-being, and if we have access to this and there's possible for us to do so, and that we are easily doing so, and with dedication and with meaning, a sense of meaning and purpose in life. And so thank you also to Lada and to Roman for the information on Apollo and the association with the swastika in the correct direction. Okay, you can watch the episode to see the correct direction. And the dolphins and the Leo, the lion energy. Okay, the upright use of the lion, the upright use of the eagle, the upright use of the dolphin. And with this, I will welcome the sun. And then we begin to see a little bit of the sun here from behind the clouds. Invoke the energy of the sun, health, clarity of vision, intelligence, to shine bright, to shine a light, and be protected while shining this light. So thank you for watching.